Hello everyone and welcome to this making of. In this piece we're going to be doing a new school snake, and I'm starting with the rough sketch on the first layer. I'm just blocking in the main shapes of the piece, and now moving to the second layer with a more tightened sketch, but still it's I'm being very loose in with the motions. I'm just gonna block some more refined shapes of where things should go. So and this was my first piece, my first snake, and I didn't really know where to put things and how to make it look okay. This this is intended to be a new school, new traditional piece, so I'm now worried too much about the realism of the piece, but it's always important. It's always nice to have some have it start from something real, because it will be easier for people to identify the object you're illustrating, and it always if it's close to the real thing, people can go like, oh, so yeah, this is a snake and it's cool and it looks good. Oh, I see that there's some things exaggerated here and there, but it's otherwise okay. Here I'm sketching in the belly of the beast, and basically the body of the snake has two sides, the belly and the back. In near traditional illustrations, the back tends to be smooth and smoothly colored, shaded, whatever, and the belly has some texture, it has some plates on it, and it makes sense. Again, it's not realistic, but it's close to the real thing, because the belly does have some plates on it. Of course, you can add scales to the back if that's your thing, but it's okay to keep them smooth as well. It can be a sea serpent or something. And moving on to the inking, I'm using a calligraphic brush set to 15 point, and it has the pressure toggled on from 1 to 15, so I can really get those thin lines, and also get the thick lines, the harder ones. It's easier to work like this and use only one tool for everything. It's like when you're working traditionally, you're gonna have a thicker brush and dip it in, with a very fine point. When you dip it in ink and just put it to paper, you can get some thin lines, and you can press harder and get some really thick lines. As you can see here, I'm pressing harder on the outside part of the scales, and that's because usually in near traditional pieces where you have some line wave variation, the outside tends to be a little bit more bolder. That's just to mark where the piece is ending, where a certain object is ending, in contrast to the objects around it. Also, if you want to push something to the foreground using a line weight, you can go for a thicker, bolder line, and it will somewhat mark that part of the subject is in front of the other parts. Okay, so now I'm lining the cherry blossoms, and I'm not being too careful about this because they're fillers. They're basically fillers. I don't want the attention to be distracted from the focus points, which is the snake, and mostly the head of the snake. Moving into coloring, I'm using layers again, and I'm blocking in color for each object on a different layer. This is base coloring, local coloring. So I'm using a hard airbrush, and I'm just putting on color. I'm adding color, adding color. I'm not too worried about being very strict line wise, or not even with the color, because I know I'm going to be coming with another color to shade and do some gradients, and I'm going to change the feel of the entire piece. So yeah, this yellow is quite distracting, but it's going to change in the end. Now adding color for the back, this is a lot easier because uh, it's not a complex shape, it's rather smooth. So yeah, this is basic coloring. There's nothing much to it. They just add color, add color, add color. And although it's you don't have to be really careful with the color, since it's not meant to be a realistic piece. I mean, okay, there's not gonna be a gray petroleum snake with very yellow belly and a golden head in nature. You're probably not gonna find this thing, but it works from for the purpose of this illustration. It looks good. Again, coloring the spittle. I know it's not blue, saliva is not necessarily blue, but it's good to make it stand out from the white. Using white for coloring something is not great in an illustration. Maybe the best thing you have is using an off-white. White is mostly used for highlights, for those brilliant highlights. Okay, so moving on to shading now. I'm using a texture brush for the belly part, because the belly of this snake is usually torn, quite torn, and has some different textures, scratches on it, because hey, at the end of the day it does use it to move around. So yeah, I think this brush quite made a difference in the texture. And I'm coming in with a soft airbrush just to add some stronger shadows to where I see fit. This is basically the parts where something could be overlapping. Okay, here's the white. As I said, white is mainly used for very brilliant highlights, and don't be afraid to use this in your traditional illustration. For the back, I'm using a white-ish gradient for the center line, and then adding some details, some blue details on the sides. First I'm using some lighter blue, and then coming in on the inside with the darker blue. I'm using a soft airbrush, and I'm passing over the same spot as many times as necessary to saturate it. But I didn't want to use a hard airbrush, just because I would get those outside lines. The outer lines would be too hard, and it would look like it's from someplace else, not from this piece. Okay, I'm adding some background, some basic background, because I wanted to know where I should go with the piece in terms of lighting and shading and coloring, because it's always good to work in contrast with the background. Again, the very brilliant white highlights, and I think this is the point, yeah, where I'm noticing that the outline is not completely black. So I'm moving back to Illustrator and changing it from what was an off black to pure black. taking care, adding some texture and some other colors to the spittle, and some textures to the teeth. I think some highlights to the eye, make it like it was too flat, and I using some darker orange on the outside of the eye and some lighter orange on the inside. You can make an effect, a 3D effect, give some depth. Okay, again, shading the cherry blossoms, and I'm not putting too much effort into this because, as I said, this is not a focal point. It's just there for some contrast and some filler. And this would be about it. This is the entire piece, right? Alright, thank you for watching, and make sure to subscribe. Thank you.